Point from overseas. I'm your host Faraz Darvesh. First, we'll discuss the recent development in Middle East. President Trump has decided to declare Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Well, there is a huge outcome to this. Many in the Middle East are not very happy. There is a wave of unhappiness. Let's see what will be the implications on the Middle East and on the world politics after the decision. Then we'll discuss the recent Pew Survey from India, and it has some revealing indications. So we'll discuss in detail on that. And General Mattis have recently visited Pakistan, and he has come back. But we'll see what was discussed. Will the U.S. and Pakistan relations improve in the near future or not? I have with me Riaz Haq and Ms. Bazam. Riaz, tell me the recent development on Jerusalem. Is it now officially a capital of Israel according to the U.S. perspective?
Yeah, I think what President Trump has announced is that the United States will move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which in fact means that the United States is recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Yep.
U.S. will be the only country, after they move the embassy, the only country in the world to have their embassy in Jerusalem. All other countries that recognize Israel have their embassies in Tel Aviv.
So, tell us about the background. How U.S. got to this point. What do you think has been done behind the doors that led to this decision?
I think back in 1995, the United States Congress, which is totally pro-Israel, completely, bought off by the Israel lobby, AIPAC, they passed a resolution that said that the United States will move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Now, the presidents, one after the other since then, have all made this pledge that they will move the embassy, but they have actually not done so. Trump is the first president to actually do what he said he would do.
Right.
Now, it's being seen more as a way for Trump to basically make his base happy. He wants to, more for domestic audiences than for the international audiences. Because it's pretty clear that the only support for this decision is among the evangelicals in America, as well as the pro-Israel lobby in this country. The rest of the world has all reacted negatively, including America's closest friends and allies.
No, but what is
in Europe and the Middle East?
So, other than pleasing his constituency, what other advantage has he gotten from this?
I think he needs that right now. He finds himself in a lot of trouble. There's a lot of investigations going on into his dealings into Trump and his campaign dealings with Russia, and the media is playing it up. So I think he saw this as one way to try. Now, this is one decision where there's not much opposition to it in the United States. Even the liberals, the so-called liberals, are not opposing this decision. They're saying, well, it's not a good idea, but they're not standing up to him and saying what you did is wrong.
So, tell me,
Democrats and Republicans are both supporting.
Tell me about the reaction in Middle East. The leaders of Middle East, this whole Saudi-led coalition, which President Trump just recently visited Riyadh, the Riyadh summit, and he addressed the coalition of 34 countries. Mohammed bin Salman is a very close ally of President Trump. He praises President Trump all the time. Aren't they at a weird spot or in a difficult position now?
Their problem is going to be their own street. The Arab street, the Muslim street, is obviously not very happy with this decision. They're angry about what the United States is doing. So they have to reflect that opinion by condemning it. But in practical terms, I don't see much happening from their side. They're not going to cut off relations with the United States or downgrade.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Not. Well, they are building relations with Israel.
Yeah, yeah. So in fact, the truth of the matter is that from a practical standpoint, all these countries that are criticizing and condemning Trump's move actually practically will do nothing to stop it. However, I think what it does is creates a huge longer-term problem. The groups that we call terrorists, those that are opposed to the United States policies in the Middle East and exploit those policies for their own purposes, their hands will be strengthened as a result of it. And they will be able to carry out more activities, anti-Western activities,
which is very unfortunate,
activities against the United States. And the United States will simply say this is all terrorism.
Ms. Vazan.
Yeah, if anybody is thinking that it was some kind of surprise for Arab leaders, that's not true. Jared Kushner was having private visits all these places.
To Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia
right.
and Egypt and all these countries, and they were in touch with that. Then
they already gave them heads up.
They already gave them heads up. And
right.
there was a news which was denied later on, of course, that MBS, like
Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who was in the limelight.
Foreign minister, right. Actually. He told Mr. Mahmoud Abbas that you should
the Palestinian Prime Minister.
Look for some new capital for a Palestinian state. But of course it was denied later on. But it was not denied right away. So, of course, there is not going to...
Well, I mean, there is a news that Saudi Arabia and Israel, they'll be having alliance. There's a hidden alliance, which is no longer a secret anymore.
These Arab countries, as long as US, Israel, they talk against Iran, they are happy. They don't care. Israel is not their issue now. Palestinians are not their issue now.
No, but I don't...
And not even the history. They were never being issue. I mean, the Palestinian state was taken over first by Jordan, then by Israel. So, blaming it only Israel is not quite fair, because King Abdullah, of Jordan, he was the one who was dreaming of creating a greater Syria, and I'm talking about 1947-48 time frame, in the expense of Israeli government, the newly formed Israeli Jewish state, they paid him to visit all over the world. And, so it is coming out for a very long time. And Palestinian is never being the Arab problem. I mean, of course.
But they themselves are Arabs.
They themselves are Arab, but it is not their problem that it should be resolved or anything.
Meaning Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Egypt, they don't care what happens in Israel.
Look at the history.
They are more concerned of Iran.
They're more concerned about Iran, about the Shiite, crescent. And just give me a second, please. Now your other question was regarding what US is going to achieve. Okay, first of all, President Trump, he pledged this. When in 1995, when this legislation was passed to accept Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, that time there was to keep something in their hand, to make the chip in their hand. The Congress gave this right to the president to waive it as much as they want. And every 6 months they have to do the waiver, So President Trump pledged. You see, whatever he pledged, he's doing it.
So basically, he is fulfilling his promises, whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, he's fulfilling his promises. Right. And, like Riyaz said, nobody is against it in US. Everybody's happy.
No, people don't care in US.
No, don't care. That's it.
Riyaz, do you agree with this first premise?
Yeah, I think the Arab rulers and the Muslim rulers may not see this as their problem, but the average Muslim and average Arab does see Palestinian problem as their problem. And what's going to happen as a result of it is that the separation or the gap between the Arab rulers and the Muslim rulers and their people is going to further increase. And people who are against the United States will be further strengthened. So eventually it's going to become more and more difficult for pro-American regimes to maintain their power. That's going to be one of the issues. The other thing to think about from an Israeli perspective is that, in fact, having a two-state solution is, in fact, a good thing for Israel, not a bad thing. Because eventually what's going to happen is that the number of Arabs there is going to be larger if you look at the total, Palestine and Israel, the way that the boundaries are drawn today. If you combine all of them into a single country, rather than two states, you're going to see that the Arabs will be in majority over the next, probably a few decades. Do the Israelis want that? Because if Israelis want to maintain the Jewish character of their country, then they should not preclude the possibility of a two-state solution. And by recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, they are precluding that possibility. Because one of the negotiating points between the Arabs and the Israelis, the Palestinians and the Israelis, for a long time has been the status of Jerusalem. One of the ideas that has been pursued is that you basically satisfy both by giving East Jerusalem to the Palestinians to claim as their capital, and West Jerusalem to Israel to claim as their capital. In fact, basically cut the baby. And that's been basically the hope of a lot of people who've been hoping that the Palestinians and Israelis will eventually be able to live in two separate states side by side. That is becoming less and less possible as a result of these moves.
Yeah, actually, if you see it, most of the demonstrations in support of Palestinian in Arab states were pretty low, other than Europe, some Egyptian, Morocco, and mostly those are due to their religious feeling and anti-Israel feeling, not for the Palestinians' right. It's very little. I mean, I'm sure there is some. So the thing is that mostly the rulers and the rich and the sheikhs, those big people who virtually controlling the Arab politics, I don't see anything happen. You don't see any big demonstrations in Saudi Arabia, or maybe you see in Jordan, maybe you see in Egypt or some other, but UAE and these, the rich one who are controlling the whole politics. Nothing is going to happen.
But these are not democratic countries where you see these things. It doesn't happen.
None of them.
In these countries, in fact, one of the advantages of having democracy is that you have this as a kind of a safety valve where people are able to show their anger, to come out and demonstrate, and then go away. If you close off those possibilities, which is what the Arabs have done, many of the dictatorial regimes there, it's going to be more difficult for them, because when it explodes, it's going to explode big, and that's going to basically destroy all of these regimes. That's certainly one of the possibilities that could happen.
Well, in all the dictatorial regimes, this is the possibility, but the thing is that as long as people are not so much empowered, it is not going to happen. Most of these movements are supported by the strong big countries, as long as they don't get involved. Now the question is that Palestinians are saying that since US is taking a side, so we are not accepting them as a honest broker. But the question rises, if not US, then who? Russia? Not at all. China? President Xi, although he is spending money, but he says that they were having a financial issue. So there is nobody else but US who has to be going there,
It has to be the mediator,
Palestinians
right?
has to be
Right.
coming to them.
So
I don't
let
think
me-
even their leadership does understand, and they kind of know this thing that eventually it is going to happen,
Okay, let me
especially with President like Mr. Trump.
President like Mr. Trump. Riaz, let me shift the topic and let me come back to the recent Pew survey coming out from India. Tell us what is in that Pew survey, and tell us what are the positives and what are the negatives.
Yeah, so the Pew survey shows that 64% of Indians have an extremely unfavorable view of Pakistan. Only 10% are somewhat favorable.
Which is fine because it's in any country.
The important thing is that over the last several years that they've been doing this survey. This is the fourth year. They started the survey in 2013, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's the worst ever.
Well, because of Prime Minister Modi.
Yeah. So what is happening is that in fact, there's sort of I would say there's some parallel between what Mr. Modi is doing in India and what President Trump is doing in the United States. Both of them are taking steps to shore up their base by taking extremely bigoted positions, particularly with regard to Muslims. Pakistan, in a way, stands as a proxy for Muslims in India, Muslims in Islam. That's how they see Pakistan. So I think the worry is that both of these regions, Middle East and South Asia, it's becoming less likely that there will be peace in these regions, at least not in the foreseeable future, because all the indicators are going in the opposite direction. Things are getting more difficult rather than easier.
Because Prime Minister Modi has pumped up the narrative against Pakistan, and you see that.
And this is the Hindutva thing that he's pushing, and the media is basically, playing along with him. The big problem that in fact, Mani Shankar Ayar, one of the Congress politicians, spoke out today or yesterday. He said, there'll be no peace here as long as Mr. Modi is Prime Minister of India. And in fact, there was a big brouhaha about the fact that he called Modi a neech, aadmi. He's a man of low stature.
He said more than that.
Mani Shankar said, well, I have to see this. I haven't seen it. Okay. Okay, Ms. How about you?
Actually,
what Riyadh just said is pretty alarming. That the indicators are indicating that in the near future there will not be a peace in the Middle East and the South Asia region.
India and Pakistan are very, very strange countries. I'm very sure that India and Pakistan will have to come back together and talk in some ways. And things are getting a little bit slowing down now. You see suddenly, like a cold this line of control and all that, and transferring of some people, and besides that some of the people who want to have a medical facility in India, even Sushma Swaraj was tweeting that we are allowing them to come to have their treatment or something. So something is going on in the middle, but I would say that the main reason, it's true, I agree that it's true that Mr. Modi is responsible of creating all this trouble. But problem is the media there. Media is, because ordinary person listens to the media more. These guys are more closer to them. And of course, the media is so much, and most of the people want to listen those people who are the fiery speakers and
demagogues.
Demagogues, same as in Pakistan, same as in United States, So that is the more problem. And if tomorrow the government would want to do something, they are very careful to move very slowly.
So the problem is freedom of speech, freedom of press. What can India do about this? If you were to take this complaint to Prime Minister Modi, what can he really do to pump down the narrative in the media?
Mr. Modi cannot do anything because media...
It benefits him. He wants to promote it.
That's true. He was the one who started all that, who allowed these people to come out and talk like that. And but problem is not that, but over the time they have to pull back because now US is pressurizing both India and Pakistan to do the chat, do the
Here,
talk.
let me take to the closure. General Mattis visited Pakistan recently. What is the outcome of his visit?
Yeah, I think there was an analysis done by Stratfor, which is does in a geopolitical analysis. It's often seen as a front for the CIA in the United States, but they have a bunch of analysts who work there. And the headline of their report was, "Mad Dog barks." You know, Mad Dog is basically, Mattis is called Mad Dog Mattis.
Yeah.
Mad Dog Mattis barks.
In Iraq.
Islamabad does not bite.
Okay.
So
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that sums it up pretty well, that he basically said, hey, do this, or this. Islam said, no, we ain't gonna do none of this stuff. And so in the end, I think what the reports are that he actually became much more conciliatory. He said, let's figure out how to move forward. Let's try to figure out how to work together.
So basically, nothing really happened.
So there was no real
result.
forward movement.
Okay.
And the other
Stands
report
still.
is that the U.S. freeze on, you know, the collateral, the coalition support funds remains in place.
So U.S.-Pakistan relations stand as is.
It did not move forward as a result of this visit.
Yeah, actually it was interesting. There were three types of messages came, emanated from, one is from Pakistan government, one is from military, ISPR, one is from US government. See, US government, they say we told them to do double your efforts and not do more, but double your effort, what you are doing. Pakistan government say that, well, US understands everything and it was more conciliatory. However, and besides that, they say that we already finished all the safe havens for Haqqani network and all those kind of things. That is governments. However, the military statement is very interesting. They say, yes, we finish all this Haqqani network. However, we have to find out if our guests in Afghan refugee camps, maybe they are abusing our hospitality and they are going to Afghanistan and hurting our brothers in Afghanistan. So, you know, these are entirely three different things coming from three different sides. So what really happened, first thing after this meeting came from the Pakistani Air Marshal just today, saying that the decision is made, if ever any US drone will come, we are going to shoot it down. Just today this statement came, yesterday actually, this statement from the chief of Air Force in Pakistan. So that statement somewhat tells us that things were not good.
Things didn't go well.
Things did go well.
Okay.
So US and Pakistan relations cannot go very good because generals are controlling the diplomacy in United States, unfortunately, and in Pakistan.
Last, just I want you guys to wrap up in less than 2 minutes. Is Pakistan, the current sitting democratic government in Pakistan, going to fall down? Is that a possibility?
Well,
With the
in
recent
Pakistan,
development.
falling down democratic government is always a possibility. That's what my simple answer.
Will that happen in the near future, Razak?
I don't think so. I think they will probably continue. What's happening right now, a lot of the activity that you see right now is basically preparing for the next election.
Next election, okay. Thank you so much, Razak and Ms. Azam. Audience, send us your inputs, your feedback. You see our addresses, email addresses on the screen. Until next week, we'll be back next week with more topics.